Namaste and welcome to React Bits. Today we are going to talk about Singleton Pattern with Dart. So what is Singleton Pattern? It is one of the simplest design pattern in which there can only be one instance of a class, or we can only create one object of a particular class. And the class itself is responsible to keep track of its sole instance. Okay, and the instance of the class should be globally accessible by creating a static method in a class that gives access to that instance. And also we need to make the constructor private so that we can prevent other instantiations of the same class. That is how we create a singleton pattern, that is only one instance of a particular class. Why is it useful? So singleton pattern is not always useful. It is useful in some cases, mostly when multiple instances are quite costly in terms of performance and configurations. For example, we have a database connection object, okay, and if we want to create a database connection object each and every time, instantiate a new connection, configure the connection and run it, then it becomes quite costly and performance intensive. So instead it is not even required. So instead what we can do is we can create a singleton object of a database connection class, configure it and use it application wide to connect with the database. And another useful case is when we want to access same object over and over across our application. For example, if we have a logger or a error reporting service, we do not need to configure it again and again. We configure it once and we can use the same instance everywhere in our application. In context of Flutter, for example, if we have an application state that we want to share across our application, then it is useful to use a singleton, because if we create multiple instances, they might have different data sets and we do not want that. We want application state to be same across the application accessed similarly. So singleton is useful in that case as well. There are some considerations while creating a singleton. We should think of some of the considerations, like first is the lazy construction. So what is lazy construction? You will only instantiate the class whenever it is required for the first time. So when somebody calls the class instance for the very first time, only then we should consider creating the instance. Before that, we do not even need to create the instance. This is because we said earlier, singleton classes when configured, they tend to be expensive, costly in terms of performance and configurations. So it's good to only create a new instance whenever it is required. Second, singleton class should not require any parameter for its construction. Why? Because whenever we provide different parameter for constructions, and if the user passes different value for a constructor at different times, then it might have a different object instance. It doesn't become a singleton. So almost all the time singleton class shouldn't require any parameter for its constructions. And finally, it should be thread safe. That is, in multi-threaded language, it should have some mechanisms to synchronize its state across the multiple threads. And talking about in context of Dart, Dart is a single threaded language, so we do not have to worry about the thread safety. So let's dive into code and create a singleton class. Let's see how we can create a singleton class in Dart or Flutter. Let me open the Dart pad and let's create a new pad. Okay, let's create a Dart pad. It's fine because we are only creating a class to see how singleton works. Okay, let's keep the main function here and let us create our class. So let's just name it singleton for simplicity. the first and foremost thing that we do is we do not create a public constructor. So instead, what we create is a internal constructor or a private constructor. So singleton dot internal. So we are adding underscore in front of the factory method name because underscore makes it private. Okay, and in here what we do is we create a new instance, or we assign name equals singleton pattern. So we are creating a private instance, and string name, we are creating a name variable in here, and then we are creating static singleton instance. So we have a instance member so that we can keep track of the instance. As we said before, the class itself is responsible to keep track of its sole instance. So this instance variable here will keep track of the instance. Next, we said that there has to be a static method that gives us access to the instance globally. So we create a static method. So we create a getter for our instance, and we said that we do not create a new instance until and unless we require one. So whenever first time they call the getter instance, if instance is null, if instance equals null, then we want to instantiate, that is instance equals underscore internal. Okay, so we are creating a new instance using this internal constructor. We need singleton dot internal. Okay, and once we have the instance, we can return instance. So this way we can create a singleton. How it is a singleton? Let me zoom in. So we have a class and we have a instance variable, static instance variable that keeps tracks of its own instance, and we have a internal constructor or a private constructor. That way we cannot instantiate, and then we have a static method to get the instance so that instance is globally accessible. So let us try to create a new instance. Okay, see, we are not allowed, isn't used. The class singleton doesn't have a default constructor, so we cannot do this. But however, what we can do is get instance. So we can do this. If we do this, now we can print singleton dot name. Okay, and if we run this, we get the printed out singleton pattern. See, we get the name printed out. This way we can access the same instance with the same name value everywhere, and if I change the value of name from somewhere, it will be changed everywhere because we are using the same instance everywhere. So this is how we can create a singleton pattern or singleton class in our application. And in Flutter, it is useful whenever you are creating a service or a helper methods, helper classes, or anything that doesn't require multiple instantiation. For example, you are creating an API service that connects to your API and provides different methods to access your API. Then you can use a single instance because you have lots of configurations there and you do not require to make a multiple instance to access those methods. So it is very useful in those cases in your Flutter application. Thank you everyone for watching this video. I hope this is useful for some of you who are creating your next Flutter application, or even you can use it in your existing Flutter application. Let me know your thoughts in your comments, and please, if you have not, like, share and subscribe. Thank you.